Daniel Cooper stood at the observation window of the Galactic Assembly Station and watched the stars. He had dreamed of this moment his entire life, standing among the greatest powers in the galaxy, representing Earth in negotiations that could save millions of lives. But now that he was here, all he felt was a cold knot of fear in his stomach. "Stop staring at the view and focus," Captain Gregory Palmer said from behind him. "We have 2 hours before the negotiations begin. I need you sharp, not daydreaming." Daniel turned away from the window. The captain was a hard man, built like a block of iron and twice as unyielding. He had led Earth's diplomatic corps for 5 years, ever since humanity joined the Galactic Assembly. In that time, he had never lost a negotiation, but Daniel could see the worry in his eyes now. "I understand, sir," Daniel said. "I have reviewed all the files on the delegation." "Reviewing files is not enough," Palmer said. He walked to the center of their small briefing room. Control the medical technology we need. Without it, the plague will kill 30 million people on Earth within the year, but they do not want to help us." Daniel already knew this. The plague had appeared 6 months ago, spreading across Earth like wildfire. Nothing could stop it. Human doctors had tried everything. The only cure existed in research labs, protected by patents and trade agreements that Earth could not break. "Why do they refuse to help us?" Daniel asked. "We are willing to pay any price." Palmer's expression darkened. "Because we are human, because we are new to the galaxy, because they see us as weak and emotional and unworthy of their technology." Another voice spoke from the doorway. "Because Ambassador hates us." Daniel turned to see Corinne Mitchell entering the room. She was a senior diplomat, 10 years older than Daniel and far more experienced. She carried a data pad and looked exhausted. "I spent the last 3 days researching," Corinne said. She set the data pad on the table. "She is the most dangerous diplomat in the Empire. She has destroyed careers with a single word. She has ended negotiations before they even started. And she has never, not once, shown mercy to any species she considers inferior." Daniel picked up the data pad and studied the information. Ambassador's record was impressive and terrifying. She had represented the Empire for 20 years. She had negotiated treaties with 30 different species, and she had won every single time. "What about her personally?" Daniel asked. "Does she have family, friends? What drives her?" Corinne shook her head. "No one knows. She never speaks about her personal life. She never socializes with other diplomats. She works alone, lives alone, and trusts no one." Palmer crossed his arms. "None of that matters. What matters is that she holds our fate in her hands. If she refuses to negotiate, Earth loses. 30 million people die. So I need both of you to follow my lead exactly. Do not speak unless I tell you to. Do not offer opinions. Do not try to be clever. Just sit there and look professional." Daniel wanted to argue, but he knew better. Palmer was right. This was too important to risk on inexperience. 2 hours later, Daniel sat in the grand negotiation chamber of the Galactic Assembly Station. The room was enormous, designed to hold delegates from hundreds of different species. Today, it felt empty and cold despite the dozens of beings present. The delegation sat across from the humans. There were 5 of them, all wearing formal robes in deep purple, but Daniel could only look at one. Ambassador sat in the center of her delegation. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to cut through everything they looked at. Her face showed no emotion at all. She studied the human delegation like a scientist examining insects. "Let us begin," said. Her voice was cold and precise. "Earth requests access to medical technology, specifically the cure for the plague currently killing your population." Palmer stood. "That is correct. We are prepared to offer substantial compensation." "Compensation," repeated. The word sounded like an insult in her mouth. "Tell me, Captain Palmer, what does Earth have that the Empire could possibly want?" Daniel saw Palmer's jaw tighten. "We can offer raw materials, labor, cultural exchanges." "We have materials," interrupted. "We have labor, and we have no interest in human culture." She leaned forward. "What you are really asking is for us to give you our most valuable research out of charity, because you are too weak and too primitive to develop it yourselves." Other alien delegates in the chamber whispered among themselves. Some looked amused, others looked uncomfortable, but no one spoke up for Earth. Palmer remained standing. "We are asking for trade, not charity. Name your price." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "My price is simple. Earth will grant the Empire exclusive mining rights to your asteroid belt for 100 years. You will provide 10,000 workers to staff our operations, and you will pay us 12 billion credits annually for the privilege of using our technology." The chamber went silent. Daniel felt his heart sink. The terms were impossible. Earth did not have 12 billion credits. Giving up the asteroid belt would cripple human expansion for generations, and providing 10,000 workers sounded dangerously close to slavery. "Those terms are unacceptable," Palmer said quietly. "Then we have nothing more to discuss," replied. She began gathering her documents. "Wait," Palmer said. "Surely we can find a compromise." Looked at him with those cold eyes. "Captain Palmer, let me be clear. The Empire does not compromise with inferior species. You came here begging for help. I have stated my terms. Accept them or leave. Those are your only options." Daniel watched the exchange in silence as Palmer had ordered, but something bothered him. He studied carefully, looking past her harsh words and cold expression. There, just for a moment, he saw something flicker in her eyes. Not cruelty, not hatred, something else. Something that looked almost like exhaustion. She glanced down at her documents and Daniel noticed her hands. They were shaking just slightly. She hid it well, but it was there. Why would she be nervous? She held all the power in this negotiation. Earth had nothing. They could simply walk away and lose nothing. Unless they had something to lose too. Daniel filed the observation away in his mind, but said nothing. Palmer had ordered silence, and Daniel would obey, even if every instinct told him that something about this situation was wrong. "We need time to consider your terms," Palmer finally said. "You have until tomorrow," replied. "After that, I will assume Earth is not serious about saving its people." She stood and gestured to her delegation. "We are finished here." The filed out of the chamber, walked last, her back straight and her expression unchanged. But Daniel noticed that she paused at the door for just a moment, looking back at the humans. Then she was gone. Palmer slumped in his chair. "We are dead. Those terms will never be approved by Earth's government." Karen put a hand on his shoulder. "We still have tomorrow. Maybe she will soften her position." "She will not," Palmer said. "You saw her. She wants us to fail." Daniel stood and walked to the window again, looking out at the stars. He thought about shaking hands, about the exhaustion in her eyes, about the way she had paused at the door. "Sir," Daniel said slowly, "permission to speak freely." Palmer waved a hand tiredly. "Go ahead." "I do not think Ambassador wants us to fail," Daniel said. "I think she needs us to fail." Palmer and Karen both stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Karen asked. Daniel turned to face them. "I am not sure yet, but something is wrong. She is too harsh, too demanding, like she is trying to make absolutely certain we cannot accept her terms." "That is exactly what she is doing," Palmer said. Daniel did not sleep well. He kept thinking about the negotiations, about the millions of people dying on Earth. When morning came, he felt exhausted and worried. The second day of negotiations was worse than the first. Palmer tried everything. He offered new trade agreements, technology exchanges, even cultural partnerships, rejected every proposal without hesitation. Her responses were quick and cutting, designed to make the humans look foolish. Other alien delegates began to gather in the chamber to watch. Word had spread that the humans were failing. Some species found it entertaining. They whispered and laughed quietly among themselves. Daniel sat in silence as ordered and watched it all fall apart. By the afternoon break, Palmer looked like a broken man. Karen was pale and quiet. The delegation left the chamber without a word, and the other aliens followed, still whispering and laughing. "I need some air," Palmer said. "Cooper Mitchell, stay here and review the files again. Maybe we missed something." He left before they could respond. Karen sat down heavily. "We did not miss anything. There is nothing to find. She does not want to make a deal." Daniel did not answer. He was thinking about something he had noticed during the session, had dismissed Palmer's offers without even reading them. She had prepared responses before the proposals were made, like she already knew what Palmer would say. "I am going to take a walk," Daniel said. Karen nodded without looking up from her data pad. Daniel left the chamber and wandered through the station's corridors. The Galactic Assembly Station was huge, home to thousands of diplomats and staff from hundreds of worlds. He passed beings of every shape and size, all going about their business. He found himself in the residential quarter where the diplomats lived. He told himself he was just exploring, but he knew the truth. He was looking for answers. The delegation had quarters in the eastern wing. Daniel walked past them slowly, trying not to look suspicious. He did not know what he was looking for. Then he saw her, stood at the end of the corridor alone, looking out another observation window. She was not wearing her formal robes. Instead, she wore simple clothing. She looked smaller somehow, more human. She was staring at the stars, and Daniel could see her reflection in the glass. Her face showed an expression he had never seen before. She looked tired, sad, lost. Daniel knew he should leave. Approaching her outside negotiations could be seen as improper, but something made him stay. He watched her for several minutes. She did not move, just stared at the stars like she was searching for something she had lost. Finally, she spoke without turning around. "Are you going to stand there all day, Lieutenant Cooper, or are you going to tell me why you are following me?" Daniel felt his face go hot. "I apologize, Ambassador. I was not following you. I was just walking." "Lying is beneath you," said. She turned to face him. Up close, without her diplomatic mask, she looked different, older, more fragile. "What do you want?" Daniel should have made an excuse and left, but instead he heard himself say, "I want to understand why you are doing this." "Doing what?" "Destroying the negotiations before they can begin, making impossible demands. You do not want us to succeed." His expression hardened. "I am representing the interests of my empire, nothing more." "No," Daniel said. He knew he should stop talking, but the words kept coming. "You are performing like an actor on a stage. Every word is calculated, every rejection is planned. You knew what Captain Palmer would offer before he even spoke." For a long moment just stared at him. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. It was not a happy sound. "You are observant, Lieutenant, more observant than most." She turned back to the window. "But observation without wisdom is dangerous. Go back to your delegation before you learn something you cannot forget." "Why?" Daniel pressed. "Why would you warn me away? If you truly wanted us to fail, you would let me stumble around in ignorance." Was silent for so long that Daniel thought she would not answer. Then she spoke, so quietly he almost missed it. "Because you looked at me like I was a person, not a monster, not an obstacle, a person." She glanced at him. "When was the last time someone did that for you, Lieutenant Cooper?" The question caught Daniel off guard. He thought about Earth, about the diplomatic corps, about Palmer's constant demands for perfection. "I do not know," he admitted. "Then you understand," said. She straightened her shoulders, and Daniel could see her putting the diplomatic mask back on. "Go back to your people, Lieutenant. Forget this conversation. Tomorrow the negotiations will end, and you will return to Earth empty-handed. That is how this must be." "But why?" Daniel asked. "People are dying on Earth, yes, but—" He stopped. A terrible thought occurred to him. "Are your people dying too?" His eyes widened just for a second, then the mask slammed down completely. "Leave now." But Daniel had seen the truth in that brief moment of shock. "They are. They have the same plague. That is why you are here. You need this negotiation to fail publicly, but you need the cure to reach us anyway." "You know nothing," said, but her voice shook. "Your government does not want to admit weakness," Daniel continued, the pieces falling into place. "They sent you here to deny us the technology while looking strong, but if we get it somehow, both species can be saved without either side losing face." Turned on him, and for the first time he saw real emotion in her eyes. Fear. "If you repeat any of this, I will deny it, and then I will destroy you and your entire delegation. Do you understand?" "I understand," Daniel said. "You are trying to save your people, just like we are trying to save ours." "You understand nothing," said, but she sounded tired now, not angry. "My government would rather let millions die than appear weak before the galaxy. They ordered me to refuse any deal with humans. But they also ordered me to find a way to get the technology to Earth anyway, without making it look like we helped you." "That is impossible," Daniel said. "Yes," agreed. "It is impossible. So I sit here night after night, reviewing the same files over and over, trying to find a solution that does not exist, while people die on both our worlds." She slumped against the wall, and suddenly she did not look like a powerful ambassador anymore. She looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear. "I am alone in this," she said quietly. I cannot tell my own delegation the truth. They would report me to the government. I cannot ask other species for help. They would use it against us. So I perform this theater, hoping somehow impossibly that an answer will appear. Daniel's mind raced. What if we made it look like we stole the technology? Looked at him sharply. What? Earth steals the cure from databases. We look strong and independent. You look like victims of human treachery. Both governments get what they want. Both peoples survive. That would never work, said, but Daniel could see her thinking about it. Why not? You have access to the technology. You could make it available for us to find. Make it look like a security failure. Your government blames you for being careless, not for being weak. I would lose everything, said. My career, my reputation, possibly my freedom. But your people would live, Daniel said. Stared at him for a long time. Why would you help me? Your people think I am your enemy. Because you are not my enemy, Daniel said. You are someone trying to save lives just like me. The third day of negotiations was a disaster, but this time it was planned. Daniel and Had worked through the night, building their strategy. She would continue to make impossible demands. Palmer would become more desperate. The tension would build until it seemed like complete breakdown was inevitable. But Daniel had not told Palmer the truth. He could not risk it. The captain was too honest, too direct. He would never be able to sell the deception convincingly. So Daniel played his role and waited for the right moment. It came in the afternoon session. Had just rejected another proposal from Palmer, her words harsh and dismissive. The chamber was full of observers now, all watching the humans fail. Palmer stood, his face red with frustration. Ambassador, you are not negotiating in good faith. You have rejected every reasonable offer we have made. Reasonable? Laughed. Captain Palmer, nothing you have offered is reasonable. Your species has nothing of value to trade. You are wasting my time and the time of this entire assembly. Other aliens in the chamber laughed. Daniel saw Karen's hands clench into fists. Palmer took a deep breath, trying to control his temper. People are dying, Ambassador. Surely that must mean something to you. It means you are weak, said coldly. It means your species cannot even protect itself from disease. Why should the Empire waste its resources on such a helpless people? The chamber erupted in whispers. Some aliens looked shocked at its cruelty. Others nodded in agreement. Daniel felt his own anger rising. He knew this was an act, but hearing those words still hurt. He thought about the plague victims on Earth, about families being destroyed, about children dying. Palmer was shaking now, barely holding back his rage. You call us helpless, but at least we care about our people. At least we are willing to ask for help instead of hiding behind pride. Pride stood, her voice sharp as a blade. You know nothing about pride, nothing about the responsibilities of power. You are children playing at diplomacy, and I have wasted enough time on you. She turned to leave, and Daniel knew this was the moment they had planned, the moment where everything would change. But suddenly, the words stuck in his throat. He was supposed to say something calculated, something carefully designed to start the chain of events they had arranged. But as he looked at, seeing her perform this cruel role to save her people, he felt something else entirely. His translation device was still active. He had forgotten to turn it off during the break. And he spoke, not thinking, just feeling. She is not cruel. The chamber went silent, every being turned to stare at him. Daniel felt his heart stop as he realized what he had done. But the words kept coming, flowing out like water from a broken dam. She is the loneliest person in this entire station, and she is protecting something. I just wish I understood what. The silence was absolute. Palmer's face went pale. Karen's mouth fell open. The alien observers looked shocked. But Daniel only looked at. Her face showed no expression at all. She stood frozen like a statue. But her eyes met his, and in them he saw everything: shock, fear, and something else. Hope. Then she spoke, her voice cold as ice. This negotiation is over. Lieutenant Cooper, you will meet me in my private chambers in 1 hour. Come alone. She swept out of the chamber, her delegation following quickly behind her. Daniel walked through the corridors of the Galactic Assembly Station like a man heading to his execution. Palmer had wanted to send guards with him, but had been clear. Come alone, or do not come at all. You have destroyed us, Palmer had said, his voice shaking with anger. Whatever happens in that meeting, your career is over. Do you understand that, Cooper? Daniel understood. He understood that his diplomatic career was finished. He understood that Earth's last hope for the cure had just evaporated. He understood that his moment of honesty had cost millions of lives. But he also understood that he could not take back what he had said. And somehow, standing there in that chamber, speaking the truth about had felt right, even if it ruined everything. Karen had caught him before he left the human quarters. Daniel, be careful. We do not know what she will do. She could have you arrested. She could claim you insulted her and demand punishment. I know, Daniel had replied. Then why are you going? Daniel had not been able to answer that. He did not fully understand it himself, but something in his eyes in that moment of frozen silence had told him that he needed to face her. Alone. Now he stood outside her private chambers, his hand raised to knock, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his chest. The door opened before he could knock. Stood there no longer in her formal robes. She wore the same simple clothing he had seen her in the day before. Her face was unreadable. Come in, she said, quickly before someone sees you. Daniel stepped inside. The chambers were smaller than he expected. Plain, almost bare, a desk covered in data pads, a simple bed, nothing personal, nothing that spoke of who she really was. The door closed behind him, and they stood in silence. Finally spoke. Your translation device was on. Yes, Daniel said. I forgot to turn it off. I am sorry. Sorry, laughed, but there was no humor in it. You just spoke your honest thoughts in front of the entire Galactic Assembly, and you are sorry. I did not mean to. I was just thinking out loud. I thought I was speaking only to myself. Walked to her desk and picked up a data pad. She stared at it for a moment, then set it down. Tell me, Lieutenant Cooper, how did you know? Know what? That I am lonely, that I am protecting something. She turned to face him, and for the first time he saw her without any mask at all. She looked exhausted and scared. How could you possibly know that? Daniel chose his words carefully. I watched you. During the negotiations, yes, but also before. I saw you standing at the observation window. I saw your hands shaking when you made your demands. I saw the way you looked at us, not with hatred, but with something like regret. You saw too much, said quietly. You asked me to come here, Daniel reminded her. If you wanted me to stop seeing, you would have sent me away. Sat down at her desk, suddenly looking much older. I asked you here because I need to know if what you said was real. Was it a tactic, a manipulation, or did you truly mean it? I meant it, Daniel said, every word. Then you are either the bravest human I have ever met or the most foolish. She gestured to a chair. Sit, we need to talk and we do not have much time. Daniel sat. How much did I ruin with my mistake? You did not ruin anything, said. She pulled up several documents on her data pad. You may have saved everything, or you may have damned us both. I am not yet certain which. She took a deep breath, and Daniel could see her making a decision. A decision to trust someone for the first time in a very long time. Lieutenant Cooper, what I am about to tell you is treason against my government. If you repeat it to anyone, I will be executed. But I am tired of carrying this alone, and your words in that chamber made me believe that perhaps, just perhaps, I have finally found someone I can trust. You can trust me, Daniel said. Studied his face for a long moment. Then she nodded. The Empire is dying. The same plague that is killing your people appeared on our worlds 9 months ago. We lost 12 million citizens before we developed a cure. Daniel felt his blood go cold. But you said. I said many things in those negotiations. All lies, all theater. Pulled up more documents showing casualty reports and medical data. My government developed the cure, but they are terrified that other species will learn we were vulnerable, terrified that it will make us look weak. So they are willing to let Earth die to protect their reputation? Daniel asked, anger rising in his voice. They are willing to let Earth die rather than openly help you, yes, said. But they are not complete monsters. They sent me here with secret orders. Deny Earth the cure publicly, make it look like we are strong and unmovable, but find a way anyway to let humans discover the cure on their own. That makes no sense, Daniel said. How could we discover something we do not have access to? Exactly, said. That is why I have spent every night for the past week searching for a solution. I thought about staging a break-in, making it look like human spies stole the data. but your security is not good enough to make that believable. I thought about leaking the information to a third party, but any species that helped you would demand favors we cannot give." She set down the data pad and rubbed her face. "I have been alone with this impossible task, knowing that millions of people on both our worlds are dying while I sit here pretending to negotiate. And then you spoke those words." "I am sorry," Daniel said again. "I should have stayed silent." "No," said firmly. "You should not have. Do you know what happened after you left that chamber?" Daniel shook his head. "I went to my quarters and I sat here, and for the first time in 9 months I felt something other than despair. Because someone finally saw the truth, saw past the act, saw me." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "I have been a diplomat for 20 years, Lieutenant Cooper. I have negotiated with dozens of species. I have built a reputation as cold and ruthless because that is what my government required. And in all that time, not one person ever looked at me and saw the weight I was carrying." "Until today," Daniel said quietly. "Until today," agreed. She turned back to him. "So I need to know, when you spoke about me protecting something, what did you think I was protecting?" Daniel considered his answer carefully. "Your people, your government's pride, maybe your own conscience. I was not entirely certain, but I knew you were not the monster you pretended to be." Nodded slowly. "And if I told you that I have a plan now, a plan that requires trust between us, a plan that will cost both of us our careers and possibly our freedom?" "I would say that careers and freedom do not matter much when millions of people are dying," Daniel replied. A small smile touched his lips. "You really mean that, do not you? You are willing to sacrifice everything." "Are you not doing the same?" Daniel asked. "Yes," said, "but I thought I was the only one foolish enough to try." She sat down across from him. "Here is what I propose. We stage a theft, as you suggested yesterday, but we do it dramatically, publicly. We make it look like a complete breakdown of diplomatic relations." "How?" "We go back into that chamber tomorrow and we have a fight. A real one. You accuse me of cowardice. I accuse you of arrogance. We make it so bad that the negotiations collapse completely. I storm out. You and your delegation leave in disgrace." Daniel frowned. "That does not sound like it helps anyone." "Wait," said. "That same night, your intelligence services attempt to break into databases. They will be looking for the cure, of course. And they will find it because I will make certain the security is weakened in exactly the right places." Understanding dawned on Daniel. "You will make it look like we took advantage of the collapsed negotiations to steal from you." "Exactly," said. "Earth gets the cure through theft, not charity. You look strong and resourceful. My government can claim human treachery instead of admitting weakness. Both sides save face. Both peoples get the medicine they need." "But you will be blamed for the security failure," Daniel said. "Yes," admitted. "I will be recalled to the in disgrace, possibly prosecuted for incompetence. But I will not be charged with treason because I will not have openly helped you. I simply failed to stop you from stealing from us." "That is still your career," Daniel said. "Everything you built." "Everything I built was a lie," said quietly. "A mask I wore to please my government. If losing that mask means saving my people and yours, then it is a price I am willing to pay." Daniel stood and walked to the window, thinking hard. "Captain Palmer will never agree to this. He is too honest. He will not be able to sell the deception." "Then do not tell him," said. "Tell him only what he needs to know, that the negotiations failed, that you are going to attempt a desperate move to steal the information. He will be angry, but he will support you because he has no other choice." "You are asking me to lie to my captain," Daniel said. "I am asking you to save both our peoples," replied. "Sometimes that requires difficult choices." Daniel thought about Palmer, about Karen, about the millions dying on Earth. He thought about standing alone with an impossible task, trying to save her people while being destroyed by her own government. "There is one thing I do not understand," Daniel said. "Why did you really ask me to come here? You could have told me this plan anywhere." Was quiet for a moment, because I needed to know if I was right about you, if you were truly someone who could see past surfaces, someone who would understand sacrifice. She met his eyes. "And I needed someone to know the truth. Even if only one person in the entire galaxy knows that I tried to do the right thing, that is enough." Daniel felt something shift in his chest. This woman, who the galaxy saw as cold and cruel, was one of the bravest people he had ever met. I will help you, he said. We will make this work. Shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, Lieutenant Cooper. Call me Daniel, he said. If we are going to save the galaxy together, we should at least use first names. For the first time since he met her, Truly smiled. It transformed her face completely. Then call me not ambassador, just. They spent the next 2 hours planning every detail. The fight they would stage, the words they would say, the security weaknesses would create, the timing of Earth's intelligence operation. As Daniel prepared to leave, stopped him at the door. Daniel, she said, whatever happens tomorrow, whatever anyone thinks of us afterward, I want you to know something. You speaking your thoughts by mistake was the best thing that has happened to me in years. Thank you for seeing me. Daniel smiled. Thank you for being worth seeing. He left her chambers and walked back through the corridors. Palmer was waiting for him, furious and worried. What happened? The captain demanded. She threatened me, Daniel lied, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. Told me I have one more chance tomorrow to apologize and convince Earth to accept her terms, or else she will end negotiations permanently. The chamber was packed the next morning. Word had spread across the entire station that the human negotiations were collapsing. Aliens from dozens of species came to watch the final act of what they thought was human failure. Daniel sat beside Palmer and Karen, his hands sweating despite the cool air. Across from them, and her delegation sat in perfect formation. She looked calm and cold as always. No one watching could have guessed that they had spent hours together planning what was about to happen. The session began with Palmer making one last attempt at reasonable negotiation. He offered new terms, better trade agreements, promises of future cooperation. His voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the desperation underneath. Let him finish. Then she stood and the chamber went silent. Captain Palmer, she said, her voice carrying across the room. I have listened to your proposals for 3 days now. Each one is weaker than the last. Each one proves that Earth has nothing of value to offer the Empire. Palmer's jaw tightened. Ambassador, we are trying to find common ground. There is no common ground between the strong and the weak, interrupted. Between the advanced and the primitive, you came here begging for help like children asking their parents for permission. Well, the answer is no. It has always been no. It will always be no. The watching aliens whispered among themselves. Some looked pleased. Others looked uncomfortable at harsh words. Karen leaned forward. With respect, Ambassador, your attitude is. My attitude? Slav was cruel. Lieutenant Mitchell, your entire species has an attitude problem. You think that because you built a few starships, you deserve to sit at the table with true galactic powers. You are wrong. You are decades away from being our equals, perhaps centuries. Daniel watched Palmer's face turn red. The captain was genuinely angry now, which was good. The more real emotion they showed, the more believable this would be. We did not come here to be insulted, Palmer said, standing to face. We came here to negotiate a fair trade. And I have given you my terms, replied. Terms which you lack the courage to accept, which proves my point. Earth is weak, your people are weak, and the Empire does not waste resources on weakness. Palmer's hands clenched into fists. You call us weak? At least we have the strength to admit when we need help. At least we are willing to work together instead of hiding behind pride. Pride? Voice rose. You dare speak to me of pride, when your species has contributed nothing to galactic civilization, when your greatest achievement is barely managing to join the assembly without destroying yourselves. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers, was going too far, even by her own harsh standards. Daniel could see some of the alien observers looking disturbed. This was his moment, the moment they had planned. But once again, as he looked at performing this role, playing the villain so perfectly that some observers might actually believe it, he felt real anger rise in his chest. Anger at a galaxy that forced good people to act like monsters. Anger at governments that valued pride over lives. Anger at a system that made sacrifice look like failure. Daniel stood, enough. Every eye turned to him. Palmer looked shocked. His expression did not change, but Daniel saw something flicker in her eyes. A question, was he going off script? Lieutenant Cooper, Palmer said quietly, sit down. No, Daniel said, he looked directly at. I am tired of this performance. I am tired of watching someone pretend to be something they are not. I am tired of lies. His eyes narrowed. You forget yourself, Lieutenant. Do I? Daniel took a step forward. Or am I the only person in this entire chamber who is actually telling the truth? You sit there throwing insults, making demands you know we cannot meet, acting like you are so much better than us. But I do not think you believe a word of it. The chamber went absolutely silent. Even the whispers stopped. Palmer grabbed Daniel's arm. Cooper, stand down, that is an order. Daniel pulled his arm free. I am sorry, sir, but someone needs to say this. He turned back to, You talk about strength and weakness like they are the only things that matter. But real strength is not about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. Real strength is admitting when you need help. Real strength is choosing to save lives instead of protecting your pride. Stood slowly, and Daniel could see the act settling over her like armor. You know nothing about strength, Lieutenant Cooper, nothing about the responsibilities of power. You are a child playing at diplomacy. Maybe I am, Daniel said, but at least I am honest about it. Can you say the same? The words hung in the air between them. Daniel saw his hands clench just slightly, saw the mask threaten to crack. For a moment he wondered if she would break character, if she would tell the truth right here in front of everyone. But she did not. Instead, she turned to her delegation. We are leaving. These negotiations are terminated. The Empire will have no further contact with Earth regarding this matter. Ambassador, Palmer said, desperation clear in his voice now. Please reconsider, people are dying. Then they will die, said coldly. She looked at Daniel one last time and he saw something in her eyes. An apology, a goodbye, a thank you. And their deaths will be on your hands for your arrogance and incompetence. She swept out of the chamber, her delegation following. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the chamber erupted in noise. Aliens talking over each other, some laughing, some arguing, some looking genuinely disturbed by what they had witnessed. Palmer slumped in his chair, looking like someone had punched him. Karen put her head in her hands. It is over, Palmer said quietly. We failed, Earth is doomed. Not yet, Daniel said. Palmer looked up at him. What? Sir, with your permission, I want to try one more thing. Cooper, there is nothing left to try. You saw what just happened. I know, Daniel said, but I am not ready to give up, not when millions of lives are at stake. Palmer studied his face for a long moment, then he sighed. What do you need? That night while the station slept, Daniel met with Karen and a small team of Earth's intelligence operatives. They gathered in a secure room in the human quarters, and Daniel explained the plan. The databases contain the cure for the plague, he said. We know this. What we need to do is access those databases and copy the information. One of the intelligence officers, a woman named Lisa, shook her head. That is impossible. Security is some of the best in the galaxy. We would need weeks to break through their encryption, and even then we would probably fail. What if I told you I know exactly where their security is weakest? Daniel said. Everyone stared at him. How could you possibly know that? Lisa asked. Daniel had prepared for this question. Because I spent the last 3 days watching how they operate, I noticed patterns, weaknesses, times when their guard is down. It was not exactly a lie. He had watched delegation. He just left out the part where she had told him exactly where to look. Karen looked suspicious. Daniel, this sounds too convenient. Convenient or not, it is our only chance, Daniel said. Palmer has already informed Earth that negotiations failed. In a few hours, we will be ordered to leave the station and return home empty-handed. If we are going to act, it has to be tonight. Lisa pulled up a tactical display. Even if we know where to hit them, breaking into systems will trigger alarms. They will know we were there. Good, Daniel said. I want them to know. I want the entire galaxy to know that Earth took what we needed because we were not willing to let our people die. That will start a diplomatic incident, Karen warned. Possibly worse. Better than 30 million deaths, Daniel replied. Palmer entered the room looking exhausted. I just got off a call with Earth Command. They want us to come home. They are calling the mission a failure. Sir, Daniel said, we have one option left. It is risky. It might fail, but it is better than giving up. Palmer listened as Daniel explained the plan. When he finished, the captain was quiet for a long time. If this goes wrong, Palmer finally said, you will be court-martialed, possibly imprisoned. Yes, sir. And if it succeeds, Earth will look like thieves and brigands to the entire galaxy. Yes, sir, but we will have the cure. Palmer looked at the faces around the room, young people willing to risk everything to save their world. Finally, he nodded. Do it, I will handle the political fallout. You just get that cure. Lisa and her team worked fast. They moved through the station's network like shadows, following the path that had left for them. The security weaknesses were exactly where she said they would be. The encryption was still complex, but not impossible. Daniel watched from the intelligence operations room as data began to flow. Medical research, treatment protocols, manufacturing specifications for the cure, all of it copying to Earth's secure servers. We are almost there, Lisa whispered. Just a few more minutes. Then alarms started blaring throughout the station. They know, one of the operators said. Security just went active. They are tracking us. Can you finish the download? Daniel asked. If we stay connected for another 2 minutes, yes. Then stay connected. The room lit up with warning signals. Security forces were moving through the station. They would be at the human quarters in minutes. 1 minute left, Lisa said, her hands flying over the controls. The door burst open. Commander's military advisor stood there with a squad of armed guards, but he did not move to stop them. He just stood there watching. Finish the download, Daniel said quietly. His expression was strange, angry but also something else. Understanding, maybe, he knew, somehow he knew 6 months passed. Daniel stood on the observation deck of Earth Station 1, looking down at the planet below. The blue and white sphere looked peaceful from orbit, beautiful, alive. The plague was gone. Earth scientists had used the stolen research to manufacture the cure in record time. 30 million people had been saved. The death counts that had climbed every day for months had finally stopped. Earth had survived, but Daniel had paid a price. He was no longer a diplomat. After the theft, after the scandal, after the weeks of investigations and hearings, Earth's government had quietly removed him from the diplomatic corps. They called it a reassignment. They said he was being moved to a position where his talents would be better used. But everyone knew the truth. He had been exiled. They sent him here to a remote research station far from the centers of power. A place where he could not cause any more diplomatic incidents. A place where he could be forgotten. Karen had tried to visit him once. Palmer had sent messages, but Daniel had told them both to stay away. Their careers were fragile enough without being associated with him. So he worked in the research station, analyzing data and writing reports that no one would read. And he thought about. He had heard the news, of course. The Empire had recalled her immediately after the theft. There had been a trial. She had been found guilty of criminal incompetence and stripped of her position. The reports said she was under house arrest on her, forbidden from ever serving in government again. The reports did not mention that she had saved her people. They did not mention the impossible position her government had put her in. They only talked about her failure to stop human thieves. Daniel often wondered if she thought about him, if she regretted trusting him, if she believed the sacrifice had been worth it. He was thinking about this when his communication console beeped. He almost ignored it. Most messages these days were automated reports or routine updates. But something made him check. The message was from an unknown sender. No name, no identification, just a location on the and a single line of text. She is dying, you need to know. Daniel felt his heart stop. He traced the message source. It was anonymous, routed through multiple secure channels. But the encryption signature was familiar. He had seen it before during the intelligence operation 6 months ago. Commander. Daniel sat down heavily, was dying. The message did not say how or why, but Daniel knew enough about law to guess. House arrest was not always a gentle punishment. Sometimes it was just a slower form of execution. He should stay here, he should let this go, had made her choice, she had known the risks. But Daniel found himself thinking about her standing in her bare quarters, telling him that having one person know the truth was enough. He thought about her smile when he had called her brave. He thought about the loneliest person in the galaxy who had sacrificed everything to save 2 worlds. And he knew he could not let her die alone. The journey to the took 3 weeks. Daniel used every favor he had left, called in every debt, and spent his life savings to get passage on a merchant ship. When he arrived at the system, he expected to be turned away immediately. Instead, he received landing clearance within hours. That should have been his first warning that something strange was happening. It was beautiful. Cities of white stone stretched across green landscapes. The sky was a deep purple at sunset, but Daniel barely noticed. He followed the coordinates from his message to a small dwelling on the outskirts of one of the cities. Guards stood outside. They looked at Daniel with surprise but did not stop him when he approached the door. Inside, he found her. Sat by a window, looking thinner than he remembered, older, tired, but when she saw him, her eyes widened in genuine shock. "Daniel," she whispered, "what are you doing here?" "I heard you were dying," Daniel said. "I came to check if it was true." Laughed weakly. "Who told you that?" "Does it matter?" She studied his face for a long moment. "You should not have come. This is foolish, dangerous." "Probably," Daniel agreed. He sat down across from her. "But I have been foolish before. It seems to work out." "Not this time," said. She gestured around the small room. "I am a prisoner, Daniel, a traitor to my government. Being seen with me will destroy whatever is left of your career." "My career was already destroyed," Daniel said. "I work at a research station in the middle of nowhere, filing reports no one reads. I have nothing left to lose." "You have your life," said quietly. "Do not throw it away for me." "Are you dying?" Daniel asked directly. Looked away. "Not yet, but my government is deciding my fate. There are some who want me executed. They say I betrayed the Empire by allowing humans to steal our secrets." "You did not allow it," Daniel said. "You made it possible. You saved both our peoples." "No one knows that," said. "No one can know that. If the truth came out, my government would have to admit they were weak. Admit they lied. It would destroy them." "Then we make them admit it," Daniel said. Looked at him like he had lost his mind. "What?" "We tell the truth, all of it. We expose what really happened." "That would be suicide," said, "for both of us." "Maybe," Daniel said, "or maybe it is the only way to save you." Before could respond, the door opened. Commander entered, followed by another that Daniel did not recognize. The stranger was older, wearing robes that marked him as someone important. Lieutenant Cooper said, "I was hoping you would come." "You sent the message," Daniel said. "I did," confirmed, "because there is something you need to see." The older stepped forward. "I am council leader. I oversee the Galactic Assembly. I have been investigating the events that led to Ambassador's arrest." Daniel felt a chill. "Why?" "Because something did not make sense," said. "The security failure that allowed Earth to steal our research was too convenient, too perfectly timed, so I looked deeper." Stood, her face pale. "Council leader, I know what you did," said gently. "I know you deliberately weakened the security. I know you helped Earth steal the cure, and I know why." The room was silent. Pulled up a holographic display. "I also know that the government gave you impossible orders to deny Earth the cure while secretly ensuring they got it anyway. Orders designed to fail, so they could blame you instead of admitting their own weakness." "How do you know this?" asked, her voice shaking. "Because I have been doing this job for 30 years, said. "And I have seen governments do terrible things to good people many times before." He looked at Daniel. "When you came here, Lieutenant Cooper, it confirmed something I suspected, that Ambassador was not working alone, that there was coordination between you." Daniel opened his mouth to deny it, but raised a hand. "I am not here to punish you," the council leader said. "I am here to offer you both a choice." "What choice?" asked. Close the holographic display. "You can continue hiding the truth. Ambassador will likely be executed within the month. Lieutenant Cooper, you will return to Earth in disgrace, and the galaxy will never know what you sacrificed." He paused. "Or you can come with me to the Galactic Assembly. You can tell your story, the whole truth, and let the galaxy judge." "The government will never allow it," said. "The government does not control the Assembly," replied. "And there are many species who have grown tired of watching governments sacrifice good people to protect their pride." Daniel looked at, "It is your choice. I will follow your lead." Sat down again, her hands trembling. "If we do this, if we tell the truth, my government will fall. My people will be humiliated before the entire galaxy." "Your people will also be free," said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "I have served the Empire my entire life. I have followed orders without question. But watching you, Ambassador, watching you sacrifice everything while our government hid behind you, it made me realize something. True strength is not about never showing weakness. It is about choosing truth over lies, even when truth is painful. Looked at her former military advisor with tears in her eyes. You will be punished too. Then we will be punished together, said. Nodded, the session is scheduled for tomorrow. If you choose to speak, the entire galaxy will be watching. The grand chamber of the Galactic Assembly was even more packed than it had been 6 months ago. Every species, every delegate, every observer had come to watch what they thought would be a trial. Daniel stood in the center, side by side. Addressed the assembly. We are here today because a question has been raised. A question about truth, about sacrifice, and about what we value as a galactic community. He gestured to, Ambassador has been accused of criminal incompetence, of allowing human thieves to steal vital technology, but I have evidence that the truth is far more complex. The chamber erupted in whispers. For the next hour presented everything. The secret orders from the government, the impossible position they had put in, the careful coordination between her and Daniel, the sacrifice they had both made. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Then spoke again. Ambassador Lieutenant Cooper, do you have anything to say? Stepped forward. Her voice was quiet at first, but it grew stronger as she spoke. For 20 years I have served my government. I have done everything they asked, no matter how difficult. I wore masks. I played roles. I became the person they needed me to be, even when it meant being seen as a monster. She looked around the chamber. But 6 months ago I was given orders that I could not follow, orders that would have let millions die, both human and just to protect my government's pride. So I made a choice. I chose lives over pride. I chose truth over lies, and I would make the same choice again. She turned to Daniel. Lieutenant Cooper spoke his thoughts about me by mistake. He said I was lonely and that I was protecting something. He was right. I was protecting the last piece of my conscience. The part that still believed doing the right thing mattered more than following orders. Daniel stepped forward next. I am just a junior diplomat. I have no grand titles or long service record. But I learned something during those negotiations. I learned that the galaxy is full of good people trapped by bad systems, people who want to do right but are afraid of the cost. He looked at the assembled delegates. Ambassador paid that cost. She sacrificed her career, her freedom, possibly her life, to save 2 peoples, not because it was politically convenient, not because it would make her look good, but because it was right. He raised his voice. And if we are a galaxy that punishes people for doing right, then we do not deserve the civilization we claim to have built. The silence was absolute. Then someone stood, a delegate from a small species that Daniel did not recognize. I vote to pardon Ambassador, and I vote to censure the government for its actions. Another delegate stood, then another, species from across the galaxy, rising one by one, voting to support and condemn the system that had tried to destroy her. Within minutes, the entire chamber was standing. The delegate tried to object, but his voice was drowned out by the vote. The assembly had spoken, was pardoned. The government was formally censured, and new protocols were established to prevent governments from putting diplomats in impossible positions. After the session ended, Daniel and stood together outside the chamber, watching the sun set over the assembly station. I cannot believe that worked, said quietly. You saved 2 civilizations, Daniel said. The galaxy noticed. We saved 2 civilizations, corrected. I could not have done it without you. They were silent for a moment, then spoke again. What will you do now? Will you return to Earth? I am not sure, Daniel admitted. I think Earth might not want me back. I caused too many problems. Then stay here, said. The Assembly is creating a new position, mediator for species in conflict. They want someone who can see past political games to the truth underneath. They want you, Daniel said. They want us, replied, both of us as partners. Daniel looked at her in surprise. Partners? You showed me that trust between different species is possible, said. That honesty can be stronger than deception. The galaxy needs more of that. We could teach them. Daniel thought about his exile on the research station, about the career he had lost, about the choice that had led him here. Then he thought about the bravest person he had ever met, about the truth they had spoken together, about the millions of lives they had saved. Partners, he agreed. Smiled that genuine smile that transformed her entire face. I never thanked you properly, for speaking your thoughts by mistake, for seeing me when no one else would. It was not a mistake, Daniel said. Not really. I think part of me knew that speaking the truth about you would change everything. I just did not know how much. They walked back into the assembly station together, no longer enemies or even just allies. They were something new, something the galaxy had not seen before. Two people from different worlds who had chosen truth over lies, sacrifice over safety, and partnership over isolation. And in doing so, they had changed not just their own fates, but the fate of the entire galaxy. Because sometimes, the smallest acts of honesty can echo across the stars. And this was supposed to happen. Download complete, Lisa said. We have everything. Good, said. He raised his weapon. Now you will all come with me. You are under arrest for theft of intellectual property. Daniel stood, his hands raised. Yes, we probably are. As the guards led them away, Daniel looked back at the computer screens. The cure was safe. Earth would survive. His plan had worked perfectly. But as they walked through the corridors, passing shocked alien observers, Daniel could not help but wonder what price would pay for her success. Palmer swore, we cannot accept her terms, you know that. I know, Daniel said, which is why tomorrow we are going to try something else. What? We are going to steal the cure, Daniel said. One way or another, Earth is getting that technology, even if it costs me everything. Palmer stared at him for a long moment, then slowly he nodded. Tell me what you need. Palmer grabbed Daniel's arm. What have you done? Daniel did not have an answer. He had just destroyed everything, or saved it. He would find out in 1 hour. But why? Daniel asked. If she simply wanted to deny us the technology, she could have refused the negotiations entirely. Why go through this performance? Palmer rubbed his face. I am too tired to think about conspiracies, Cooper. Get some rest. We have a long day tomorrow. Daniel nodded and left the chamber. But as he walked back to his quarters, he could not stop thinking about Ambassador, about her cold eyes and shaking hands. About the loneliest person he had ever seen.